Alright, so imagine the universe split into 3 big neighborhoods. Up top, you got Valhalla, the ultimate luxury zone. Gods only, everything's shiny, everyone's glowing. No one has a bad hair day and feasts happen every 2 seconds. Then there's Midgard, that's our place. The human turf full of traffic and tacos drama, and dance reels, just regular folks, and a bunch of confused animals trying to survive. And way down at the bottom, past the cosmic basement, there's Helheim, the dark corner of the universe. Creepy cold, packed with demons who look like they haven't had a nap since forever, just stewing and growling for eternity. So now picture this, inside a massive golden hall in Valhalla, a crowd of gods is packed shoulder to shoulder. Every pantheon you can think of is there, from thunder. Bros to snake dudes, all gathered for a mega cosmic event. Right in the center stands Hermes doing his usual smooth talk thing, and next to him is the big guy, Zeus, king of lightning, lord of drama, godfather of the cosmos, standing tall with his beard glowing like it's sponsored. Every 1,000 years they throw this massive divine board, meeting a kind of heavenly performance review, where the main topic is always the same: what to do with humanity. Because, believe it or not, we humans have been around for 7 million years. Yeah, that's a long time, even by God standards. So Zeus raises his hand and drops the big question: should we let humans stick around for another 1,000 years, or is it time to unplug the whole mess? And boom, just like that, the room goes silent. Gods stare, mortals wait, and the fate of the entire human race hangs on what happens next. And you're not going to believe what happens next. Every single god votes to just flat out erase us. They're completely fed up with watching humanity's highlight reel of awfulness. They've seen enough of the endless wars, the cruelty, the way people treat each other. They're also disgusted with how we've turned the beautiful blue oceans and green forests into our personal trash cans, filled with junk and oil spills. Kinda hits close to home, doesn't it? It looked like a done deal, with Zeus about to bring down the hammer and make it official. But then, out of nowhere, a Valkyrie named Brunhilde shouts out and brings the whole proceeding to a screeching halt. Now, Valkyries are these awesome warrior women, half god and half human, who act as celestial tour guides for the souls of fallen heroes, leading them to Valhalla. Her younger sister Gal, who's with her, just about has a heart attack, terrified that the gods are going to vaporize them for speaking out of turn. Brunhilde is having none of it. She basically says, "Hold your horses." She totally rejects the gods' easy way out. She thinks it's just lazy and cruel to wipe out humanity without giving them a fighting chance. So she proposes an alternative, a little something called Ragnarok, to determine our destiny. Ragnarok is a giant, winner-take-all tournament of one-on-one fights. 13 champions from the god side versus 13 champions from humanity's side. If the gods get 7 wins first, humanity gets deleted. But if the humans can scrape together 7 victories, we get to keep on living for another 1,000 years. The funniest part? The gods actually came up with this rule eons ago as a total joke, because they never in their wildest dreams imagined a mortal could ever land a punch on a god. To really sell it, Brunhilde starts taunting them, calling them a bunch of chickens for trying to weasel out of a good fight. She knows these deities are arrogant and have fragile egos. There's no way they let a comment like that slide, and it works like a charm. Zeus and the other gods actually seem pretty into the idea. With a grin, Zeus tells Brunhilde that since she's the one who's half human and wants to save us so badly, she can be the one to go out and find our champions. So, the whole assembly moves over to the colossal Valhalla Stadium to watch Ragnarok unfold. A fella named Heimdall is our master of ceremonies for the tournament. This guy has apparently been waiting for centuries to craft this special horn just to signal the start of Ragnarok. The gods put forward their first fighter, Thor, the god of thunder. They're billing him as the strongest of all the Norse gods, and he's bringing his ridiculously powerful hammer Mjolnir to the party. For humanity's corner, Brunhilde picks Lu Bu. This guy was the most legendary and fearsome warrior from ancient China, an absolute one-man army. He's never without his loyal warhorse, red hair. He's famous for wielding a massive halberd, so powerful it was said he could slice the sky. A monk in the human section starts praying to Buddha for a miracle, but Brunhilde leans over and is like, "Hey buddy, you might want to save your breath. The guys you're praying to are the same ones we're about to fight." Finally, Heimdall blows his giant horn with a mighty, "Let's get it on," and the tournament officially begins. Thor and Lu Bu slowly walk toward the center of the arena, and you can just feel the sheer power radiating off them. As they exchange their first blows, blocking and attacking, they both get these massive, excited grins. This is the first time in their entire lives they've met someone they couldn't just flatten in a single hit. Thor decides it's time to get serious and prepares to swing his hammer with both hands for a truly devastating blow. Before that happens, we get a little flashback to Thor's life back in Asgard, the realm of the gods. Asgard was protected for ages by these incredibly tall walls that kept giants out. Things were peaceful until one day 66 giants launched a surprise attack. They tore down the walls and completely overwhelmed the guards. They wrecked a huge chunk of Asgard and took out a lot of its people. The Asgardians had gotten complacent after centuries of peace and never imagined the giants would organize like that. Asgard was on the brink of ruin and everyone was freaking out. But then Thor arrived and took on the whole mob. He single-handedly defeated all 66 giants with Mjolnir, but even after all that, he found the fight a bit boring. We snap back to the present just as Thor unleashes the massive attack he was winding up for Lu Bu. The entire stadium shakes from the sheer force of the lightning-infused strike, and the gods are all nodding like, yeah, that's game over. But wait, Lu Bu swings his halberd and not only parries the blow but actually manages to wound Thor. And now, it's time for Lu Bu's backstory. Ever since he was a kid, he was a prodigy, riding his horse and knowing he was just built different. He spent his life traveling all over Asia, desperately searching for an opponent who could actually challenge him. He fought warriors, armies, and even mythical beasts, all in the quest for a decent fight. He beat everyone he came across and became a legend. Over 30 years, he gathered a massive following of soldiers who were in awe of his strength. The history books say Lu Bu was eventually captured and begged for his life, but that's a lie. The truth is, he allowed himself to be caught just so they would execute him. He was just that sick and tired of a life without challenge because he was, without a doubt, the strongest man alive. The scene shifts back to the fight between Lu Bu and Thor. They are both absolutely giddy, thrilled to have found an equal. Zeus is baffled because Lu Bu's weapon should have disintegrated the moment it clashed with a divine weapon. He gives Brunhilde a curious look, suspecting she's pulled a fast one. Her sister Gaul starts sweating, creeped out by Zeus's oddly cheerful stare. Here's the secret. Before Ragnarok began, Brunhilde gathered her 11 Valkyrie sisters. The Valkyries have a secret technique called Volander. It allows them to transform their very being into the perfect divine weapon, tailored to its wielder. On top of that, each sister possesses her own unique ability. Rangriz, the Valkyrie who became Lu Bu's halberd, has a power called Shield Breaker. Thor's special glove shatters when he tries to block Lu Bu's strike. These gloves were supposedly made to help Thor control his hammer safely because Mjolnir is powerful enough to shatter continents and gets as hot as molten lava. The humans in the stands are going absolutely nuts, filled with pride and hope because their champion is actually winning against a god. Hermes suggests to Zeus that the Valkyries must be turning into divine tier weapons to even the odds, but instead of being angry, Zeus declares he hasn't been this pumped since the Big Bang. Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, which had fallen to the ground, starts to glow and pulse with an incredible heat and energy. It emits a sound like a giant, beating heart that echoes through the stadium. Thor is ecstatic, saying his hammer has finally awakened from its slumber. Brunhilde and Gaul are completely stunned by the terrifying power radiating from it. Zeus then explains to Hermes that the popular story about the gloves is all wrong. The gloves aren't to protect Thor from Mjolnir, they're actually power limiters designed to protect Mjolnir from Thor, holding back his full strength so he doesn't break the hammer before it fully awakens. Thor rips off his other glove and tosses it aside, and it burns a hole right through the arena floor where it lands. He then lifts the fully awakened Mjolnir and prepares to unleash its true power on Lu Bu. Right after the match, Brunhilde gets her hands on the list of the gods' next fighters. She's fired up, wondering if one day people will call her sisters and their champions god killers. Hermes gets the human fighter list and shows it to Zeus, who gets a real kick out of the names he sees. All the gods are on the edge of their seats, excited to see Thor finally cut loose. Thor yells at Lu Bu not to die on him and hurls the supercharged hammer. This legendary weapon almost never misses. Lu Bu just barely manages to twist out of the way as the hammer zooms past him and into the spectator stands. Seeing his chance, Lu Bu charges at the now defenseless Thor, but just before he can land a hit, the hammer arcs back like a boomerang. Lu Bu anticipates this and uses his halberd to deflect the spinning Mjolnir. Thor catches it, and this is the deadliest part of the move. The momentum of the catch gives him an insane boost of speed and power for an immediate, devastating counterswing. Even the other gods have never witnessed this ultimate attack. Lu Bu, fearless to the end, runs straight towards it and meets it head on. And then, boom! A massive explosion. The colossal explosion from the two titans clashing rocked the entire Valhalla stadium. Everyone, god and mortal alike, was blown back by the shockwave. And get this, Lu Bu actually stopped Thor's ultimate attack with his giant halberd. The human spectators are roaring, absolutely electrified by the sight. But then, the dust settles, and everyone sees that the sheer force of Thor's hammer has snapped Lu Bu's leg bones. Lu Bu tries to use his weapon as a crutch to stay upright, but collapses, his legs completely broken. Brunhilde and her sister Gal watch in horror. Just as Thor is about to deliver the final blow, Lu Bu's faithful horse, Red Hair, gallops onto the battlefield to aid his master. The human crowd cheers, their hope refusing to die. Lu Bu, through sheer willpower, somehow gets to his feet even with shattered legs. He mounts Red Hair and uses his loyal steed as a new pair of legs. Zeus allows this, figuring the horse is now just an extension of Lu Bu himself. Lu Bu thinks back to his childhood when he was thrilled by the sight of lightning striking a tree. It made him believe there must be someone truly amazing in the heavens. As he grew, he trained on cliffs, swinging his massive weapon thousands of times, shattering the very rock formations. He trained relentlessly, day and night. Eventually, he perfected a move he called Sky Eater, an attack so powerful it could slice the clouds in half. He looked to the heavens, thinking he'd never get a chance to use his ultimate technique. But now, charging at Thor, he's ecstatic to finally unleash Sky Eater on a worthy foe for the very first time. Thor is just as hyped to see that Lu Bu can still fight. Thor and Lu Bu both prepare for their ultimate moves, ready to see who is stronger once and for all. The two ridiculously powerful techniques collide, sending a column of light shooting into the sky. Everyone in the stadium just stares, anxiously waiting for the outcome. When the light clears, we see Lu Bu's halberd is destroyed and his arms are gone. Even after losing so decisively, Lu Bu has a huge smile on his face, knowing he gave it his all and pushed himself to his absolute limit. Lu Bu stumbles towards Thor, allowing him to end their magnificent duel. Heimdall announces that Thor has won the first match of Ragnarok. The gods are ecstatic and cheer for their victory. The humans share a drink in honor of their fallen champion, Lu Bu. Thor looks at Lu Bu's remains and feels a sense of loss for the man he considered a friend. As he's leaving, Red Hair and Lu Bu's loyal army charge at him, knowing they'll be killed. Thor happily obliges, sending them to join their master in the afterlife. Their souls simply vanish because once you die in this arena, there's no coming back. Gal is sobbing, devastated that they'd lost the first fight. Brunhilde and Gal head back to their quarters to decide who will fight for humanity next. Brunhilde chooses a man she says hates the gods more than anyone, referring to him as Top Guy or File Number 1. Heimdall announces the start of the second Ragnarok match. He also mentions that the gods' maintenance crew has already fixed the stadium after that insane first fight. Everyone, especially the gods, is pumped for the next round. Heimdall calls out the next combatant, revealing that Adam will be fighting for humanity. Everyone knows him as the first man ever created, the father of all humankind. He's blamed for eating the forbidden fruit and is legendary for his hatred of the gods. He primarily fights with his bare hands. Heimdall then announces that the supreme Indian god will be fighting for the deities, but no one appears, and an aide informs him there's been a change of fighters. Hermes is then seen playing a violin to accompany Zeus's incredibly dramatic entrance. Zeus dances to the music as he's introduced as the father of all gods. He's also the god who overthrew his own father, Cronus, and single-handedly created the cosmos just because he felt like it. Zeus then transforms from a frail old man into a massively muscled behemoth. All the gods go absolutely wild to see Zeus himself fighting in Ragnarok. They even have a fireworks show for him. Brunhilde wasn't expecting Zeus to fight so early and gets extremely worried. We learn that the god who was originally scheduled to fight was Shiva, but on his way to the arena, Zeus stopped him. Zeus told Shiva he'd be taking his place, and Shiva got angry, saying he hadn't been this excited for a fight in ages. Shiva flatly refused, but Zeus just effortlessly pushed him to the ground. Shiva almost started a brawl with Zeus right there, but ultimately decided to let him have this one. Hermes, who was secretly hoping to see them fight, felt a bit let down when Shiva just backed down. The stadium is electric with anticipation as Zeus and Adam prepare to face off. Before the fight starts, Zeus warns Adam that if he doesn't have a divine weapon like Lu Bu, he's going to get absolutely crushed. Adam simply points up to a Valkyrie, Regenleaf, who transforms into a set of knuckle dusters for Adam. Zeus thinks Adam's got a pretty decent weapon and decides he'll just fight with his bare fists. Adam tells Zeus he's going to be sorry he didn't bring a weapon. Zeus starts the fight by leaping at Adam and throwing a blindingly fast series of punches, but Adam casually dodges every single one. The human spectators cheer loudly, amazed that he dodged Zeus's attack. Ares and Hermes find it hilarious how excited the humans are getting over Zeus's simple warm-up punches. Zeus throws a whole barrage of punches at Adam, but Adam keeps dodging them all. The punches get faster and faster, but Adam evades every single one. Zeus mixes things up, trying a kick, but Adam just gracefully leaps right over him. Zeus then taunts Adam, saying he can't win if he doesn't fight back. Adam throws a punch of his own and grazes Zeus's face. Zeus is shocked by his speed, but then he sees what's happening. He dodges some of Adam's first punches but can't keep up as Adam starts perfectly replicating Zeus's own moves from earlier. He hits Zeus with every single punch. Adam finally ends his combo with a kick that hurts Zeus and leaves him exhausted. The humans are overjoyed because it looks like they are completely dominating the fight. Gaul tells Brunhilde she was worried at first because Adam came in almost naked. Brunhilde tells Gaul that Adam can use the gods' moves because God created humans in his image. Adam can copy and execute all of their techniques because he's essentially a divine copy. His special ability to see and perfectly replicate any move is called divine reflection. Zeus says he hasn't had this much fun in eons. Just then, he starts using his feet to move at incredible speed and tries to kick Adam. Adam dodges, copies Zeus's footwork and kick, and sends Zeus flying. Zeus slams hard into the side of the stadium from Adam's powerful blow. Ares remarks that it's like Zeus is fighting himself. Zeus's muscles swell as he gets more and more excited about fighting Adam. He dares Adam to see if he can copy his next move. Zeus's fist begins to glow with immense power. Ares and Hermes are stunned to see him use that technique on a mere human. We flash back to when a young Zeus defeated his father, Cronus. Even though he won, Zeus was hit by Cronus' most powerful attack. Zeus can now perform that same move, a punch so fast it transcends time itself. He throws this ridiculously powerful punch at Adam, but Adam hits him back with that exact same punch right in the face. Everyone is in total shock. The scene ends with Zeus knocked out cold on the ground. Okay, so just before this, Zeus, the father of all gods, and Adam, the father of all humans, were duking it out in the second Ragnarok match. After they both threw a massive punch, Zeus was left unconscious on the ground, taken out by Adam's incredible punch that he copied using his divine reflection ability. Ares explains that even though he's the god of war, before he could even process what was happening, Adam had punched Zeus's head on backwards. They hit each other so fast, a lot of the spectators couldn't even see it. Hermes clarifies for Ares what actually happened. Adam barely dodged Zeus's ultimate move, but in that same instant he copied it and threw it right back at Zeus, knocking him out. Ares starts trembling, realizing that even if he trained for 1,000 years, he probably couldn't beat Adam. Heimdall runs over to announce to the whole stadium that Zeus is knocked out and begins the countdown. Shiva gets furious seeing Zeus on the floor. Gaul is amazed that the copycat managed to beat the real thing. Brunhilde tells her that the source of Adam's strength is his profound hatred for the gods. The scene flashes way back to when Adam and Eve were living peacefully in the Garden of Eden with all the animals. Eve, Adam's wife, is on trial in the gods' court, accused of eating the forbidden fruit. The serpent is blaming her, claiming he saw her commit the crime. He had wanted Eve for himself, but she rejected him, so the spiteful snake is lying to get her kicked out of the garden. Since everyone else there was a god and she was the only human, it was pretty obvious she was going to be found guilty. She feels completely helpless, knowing what's about to happen. The verdict comes down and Eve is banished from the garden. Right after the sentence is passed, Adam beats up the giant guard and strolls into the court. Everyone goes silent and watches in shock as he grabs baskets full of the forbidden fruit, eats it, and spits it out defiantly. Adam tells Eve that he's leaving the garden with her. The serpent becomes enraged because Eve will still be with Adam, so he tries to kill them. Adam quickly uses his divine reflection, copies the serpent's claws, and tears the snake into pieces. Adam and Eve leave the court and the garden behind to create their own paradise. Back in the present, Brunhilde, Gaul, and all the humans start cheering and celebrating, thinking they've definitely won this match. But Zeus stops Heimdall just as he's about to declare Adam the winner. Zeus gets back to his feet and tells Adam that he doesn't see any hatred in his eyes, no matter what the stories say. Adam explains that it's only natural for a father to protect his children. All the humans are deeply touched by Adam's words and begin to pray for him to win. Zeus is sweating profusely and starts to steam. His body begins to get smaller and smaller as it continuously lets out steam. Loki, the trickster god, joins Odin in the stands. Zeus only gets this serious when he's fighting, which is an extremely rare sight. Zeus moves strangely as his body transforms into its terrifying final form. Brunhilde gets worried because she and her sister start to shake uncontrollably, just from seeing what Zeus now looks like. Zeus just smiles, pleased with his new appearance. Hermes guesses that Zeus can't maintain that form for long because he's already heavily injured. Zeus starts throwing powerful punches from his compressed muscles. Adam dodges and hits back with the same punch he copied from Zeus. Zeus keeps getting hit by Adam's copied punches. Brunhilde starts freaking out because she realizes what Zeus is doing. Adam, using his divine reflection ability, is starting to take a toll on him. Brunhilde thinks Adam is overheating because he, a human, keeps copying divine techniques. Loki thinks Zeus is also overheating and taking damage, even though he's pushed himself to the limit. It becomes a battle of endurance to see who can last longer and take more punishment. Loki gets excited, wondering who will be the last one standing. Adam starts bleeding from his eyes as his body strains to the breaking point. Zeus finally lands a hit that should kill Adam, but Adam just keeps attacking. Adam can't really do anything now and just tries to block the flurry of blows. Even though he's gone blind, Adam doesn't stop. He grabs Zeus's hair and they just keep punching each other relentlessly. Zeus finally collapses to his knees and reverts to his normal form. All the gods get worried for Zeus, but then it's revealed that Adam was already dead. Even after death, Adam's body just kept throwing punches at Zeus out of sheer will. Heimdall announces that Zeus and the gods have won the second fight. Adam's children are sad that he died, but they stand tall and proud, having learned from Adam how to stand up to the gods. Gaul's other sister, Hrist, gives her a hug because she's heartbroken about losing another fighter. Brunhilde is super stressed out about losing again and starts stress eating a mountain of pies. While they're trying to figure out who's next, a man named Kojiro Sasaki says he'll fight. The Valkyries are confused because usually only people in their physical prime are chosen for Ragnarok, but Sasaki looks kind of old and ordinary. Brunhilde gets up and knocks over a glass of milk, but Sasaki catches it perfectly with the tip of his sword. He doesn't even spill a drop and then drinks it all. He tells her that 400 years have passed, and in that time, he's been training with his sword non-stop in his mind. He also says he's still getting better and that this is actually the moment he's at his strongest, which makes Brunhilde happy. So for the third Ragnarok fight, everyone notices the stadium is now filled with ocean water. Heimdall announces that Poseidon will be fighting for the gods. He's Zeus's brother and the god of the sea, and everyone calls him the king of the ocean. The water in the stadium parts dramatically as Poseidon makes his grand entrance. The humans and even the other gods get scared just looking at Poseidon. Heimdall then introduces Sasaki as the human fighter. They call him history's greatest loser, but explain that every time he lost, he got better and became a stronger swordsman. A lot of the humans in the crowd are like, nah, Musashi is the real strongest swordmaster. The stadium goes quiet after Sasaki pulls out his sword and the water around him becomes perfectly calm. Musashi and other legendary swordsmen start tearing up at the sight of him, seeing a level of mastery they could only aspire to. Heimdall signals for the fight to start. Everyone is confused because they both just stand there, not moving at all. Sasaki is visualizing in his mind a scenario where he would be instantly stabbed by Poseidon if he just charged at him. He starts sweating as he tries to figure out different ways to attack Poseidon, knowing none of them would be fast enough. Since the fight began, Sasaki has already been killed by Poseidon 18 times, all inside his head. Gaul tells Brunhilde it makes sense why they call Poseidon the scariest of the 12 Olympian gods. Brunhilde corrects Gaul, telling her that originally there were 13 Olympian gods, but Poseidon killed one of them. The god was Adamas, Zeus, and Poseidon's older brother. Adamas was furious that Zeus became the top god after they defeated the Titans. He released the Titans and planned to lead a rebellion against Zeus. He tried to get Poseidon to join him, but Poseidon just thought Adamas was pathetic. Poseidon tells him that gods are already perfect and don't need to form teams. This infuriates Adamas, and he tells Poseidon to look at him and show some respect. He recalls that Poseidon never looked him in the eye when they were kids. The only time Poseidon ever looks directly at him is the moment he kills him. They later changed the official story to say there were only 12 Olympian gods from the start. Back then, Zeus was hoping he and Adamas would team up, but it all ended when Poseidon killed Adamas with a single strike. Hermes tells Ares that no one would dare argue with Poseidon, not even the other gods, and that Poseidon is the most godly god of them all. Sasaki thinks it's kind of funny that Poseidon won't even look him in the eye. The scene ends with everyone being surprised that Sasaki just sat down on the ground in front of a god during the fight. Okay, so last time, the third Ragnarok fight began with Poseidon and Sasaki. Everyone was baffled as to why Sasaki just sat down in the middle of the fight. Back in the day, a young Sasaki was learning from a famous Japanese sword master. The nephew of the head of the sword school beats another student and then complains about Sasaki being late. He dares Sasaki to a duel with wooden swords. Sasaki blocks most of his attacks but finally loses because he gives up. Master Saigen asks him, "Why did you give up?" Sasaki explains that he can't beat that guy even if they fought 100 times, not in his current state. Everyone at the school just thought Sasaki was no good with a sword. Sasaki starts trying to figure out how to beat him. He begins training in the woods and studies how animals fight. Sasaki's real talent was getting better at winning just by losing over and over again. After 6 months, Sasaki returned to the school. He tells the guy that after thinking about it a lot, he figured out how to beat him in his head. That guy gets mad about that and attacks him, but for just a split second he felt like he would have died if he had continued his attack. Sasaki then asks Master Saigen for a duel and he accepts. Saigen gives off this incredibly intense fighting aura that totally excites Sasaki. After Sasaki lost that duel, he stopped coming to the school again, but this time for several years. Saigen, who had gone blind, finds Sasaki in the woods because he was worried about him. Sasaki says, "Hey," and brings him inside his hut. Saigen can tell how much Sasaki had trained in the room, fighting imaginary battles just by feeling the thousands of cuts on the walls. Even though he's blind, Saigen wants Sasaki to teach at the school, but Sasaki says, nah. Instead, he wants to go travel and lose even more so he can get stronger. He went looking for the best swordmasters and kept challenging them to duels, but he lost every single time. He kept using those losses to improve so he could finally beat them. In his mind, that's why they call him history's biggest loser. The gods are excited to see what Sasaki will do against Poseidon. Sasaki starts with a powerful downward slash, but Poseidon dodges it. Just as Poseidon is about to counterattack, Sasaki uses his insanely trained body to change the direction of his sword mid-swing, which is incredibly difficult to do. He not only snips off a lock of Poseidon's hair, but also forces him to finally look at Sasaki. The Valkyries and humans start thinking, maybe they can actually win this. Sasaki thinks the sword, Hrist, that his Valkyrie first turned into is the perfect one for him. The gods are shocked because Poseidon starts walking towards Sasaki on his own. Poseidon throws a flurry of super fast jabs with his sharp trident. Sasaki dodges all of them, not because he saw them coming, but because he knew they were coming from all his mental practice. Brunhilde explains what Sasaki was doing. He basically created a perfect copy of Poseidon in his head the second he walked into the arena. He ran through over 1,000 of Poseidon's potential fight patterns in his mind from the moment he saw him. After Sasaki dodges everything, the stadium gets quiet, and then Poseidon starts whistling, and suddenly he's doing things Sasaki didn't predict at all. Poseidon lets loose a ridiculously fast jab that Sasaki can't dodge. All the gods get hyped seeing Poseidon winning and cheer really loud. Poseidon gets annoyed by the noise and silences them just by looking at them. Poseidon then jumps up and sends a torrential rain of jabs down on Sasaki. Sasaki dodges and blocks all his hits, getting better with each block, getting closer and closer to being on a god's level himself. But just when he thinks he's figured out all of Poseidon's moves, Poseidon does something Sasaki totally didn't see coming. Again. Sasaki tried to cut him, but Poseidon dodged. Finally, Poseidon breaks Sasaki's sword with his trident. The Valkyries and humans start losing hope because Sasaki can't win without a divine level weapon. As Sasaki sees the reflection of his Valkyrie, Christ, on his broken sword, he remembers way back many years ago. Sasaki challenged the legendary Musashi to a duel. Sasaki almost finished him, but kept the fight going because it was just too much fun. He managed to cut Musashi's face, but eventually got cut down himself. Even though Musashi died, they both respected each other and had the best time fighting. Sasaki walks over and picks up the other half of his broken sword from the ground. Both pieces start glowing with energy and turn into 2 new swords. Brunhilde tells Gaul that hers can turn into 2 weapons because she has 2 different powers inside her. Sasaki gets ready to fight again. As he keeps parrying Poseidon's strikes, he starts moving just like Musashi did. Musashi mentioned that Sasaki was using techniques he'd learned from the many fighters he had faced before. Sasaki's twin blades begin slicing Poseidon repeatedly. The gods are amazed to see Poseidon getting wounded and bleeding. Poseidon starts whistling while using his own blood to push his hair back. He thinks Sasaki is getting too cocky and decides to remind him who's in charge. Poseidon's face becomes stone cold and he unleashes a storm of attacks on Sasaki. Sasaki tries hard to block everything and almost gives up until he hears the crowd roaring for him. Sasaki eventually figures out Poseidon's attack pattern and gradually gets closer. Sasaki cuts off Poseidon's arms, one after the other. All the gods watching are stunned by this. Poseidon grabs his 3-pronged spear with his mouth and tries to stab Sasaki, but Sasaki slices him apart. Humans everywhere celebrate Sasaki's victory against the god of the sea. Heimdall officially declares the first win for humanity in Ragnarok. The gods gather to plan their next move. Zeus tells the other deities that humans are tough and they need to get serious. Shiva is super eager to fight in the next round. However, the Greek gods want to strike back at the humans after Poseidon's defeat. Gaul notices Brunhilde having a quiet chat with Hermes. Gaul says humans won the first match against the gods, but they have way fewer fighters left. Brunhilde agrees and expects the gods will field a very powerful fighter. While Gaul wonders who it is, Hercules appears, radiating power. Gaul happily says hello. Hercules shares that he'll fight next, but he'll argue for letting humans live. Brunhilde tells him to do well. Loki doubts Hercules' allegiance, but Hercules says he stands for what is right. Brunhilde announces Jack the Ripper will face Hercules, and Jack himself requested the stadium look like London from the 1800s. And what you see now is a duplicate of London, England from the 1800s. It's a deity against a person in a brutal street brawl. Now representing humankind in the 4th match is this fellow. The most notorious murderer throughout human history, Jack the Ripper. This is wild. Absolutely not. So that's the pick you went with? And now, the one looking to get revenge for his fellow god's loss? The fearless fighter who defeated both the Nemean lion and Cerberus, the one who gifted life to the sky and ground, the unparalleled champion, Hercules. The notorious killer embodies wickedness, while Hercules represents fairness. Arthur clarifies that Jack the Ripper killed at least 5 women who worked the night in London. Hercules proposes Jack surrender, offering to persuade Zeus not to completely erase his soul in the dark realm, but Jack refuses and reveals his weapon, giant scissors. Hercules agrees and promises to use his complete power against him, but Jack flees. Enraged, Hercules follows him to a coffee house where he sets off a trap, but his divine strength is too great. Jack then shoots a cable and Hercules swings his club, smashing Jack's scissors. Jack pulls back and reaches into his bag to pull out knives, which astonishingly wound Hercules. Jack shows that his shoulder bag is his genuine weapon, able to create various sized weapons. Brunhilde says humans are great at wickedness, and as pure boundless malice, Jack is ideal against a deity. Hercules is shielding himself from Jack's knives. He's batting away each one. Jack keeps altering his throwing style. The Ripper is letting it rip. Jack! He looks scared now. End him! He's cornered. Hercules is steadily getting closer to Jack. Get lost. But Jack's throws are becoming unpredictable, making Hercules stay on defense. Despite getting wounded, Hercules moves toward Jack and strikes with his club. Jack stopped the strike using an umbrella, gaining a bit of Hercules' respect. Hercules then sends out a powerful wave of force that slams Jack into a close building. Jack takes out a fold-out knife. The viewers see Hercules' body art spreading out, leading Loki to ask what they mean. Ares explains that the markings show how much Hercules paid for his successes. He's explaining that Hercules finished the 12 challenges and learned the 12 godly skills, but each time he uses these abilities, his markings get bigger and cause intense pain. If the markings cover his whole body, he'll pass away, and his spirit will be erased. Even facing the risk, Ares trusts Hercules. He thinks Hercules' genuine power is his unstoppable will, something no deity can shatter. In the old city of Thebes, a young kid named Castor is trying to protect a wagon from mean guys who want to sell it for healing stuff. Alcides, who'd become known as Hercules, helps protect Castor but gets hurt. Castor asks why he fought, and Alcides says he wanted to protect what was fair. While looking for game, Alcides rushes a wild pig but is quickly taken down, and the mean guys mock him for being weak. They tell him to drink Zeus's blood, ambrosia, to live forever, but caution he'll die if he's not a genuine hero. Castor tells Alcides the bullies are just repeating old tales and tells him to get stronger in his own unique style. Zeus asks everyone what they think about wiping out the Thebans for constantly causing problems. Some deities propose teaching humans a lesson, but Ares wants to manage Thebes personally. As Ares arrives, the people surrender, awaiting their predicted end, but Alcides steps forward, attempting to rescue them all. He finally drank ambrosia and began breaking down. Ares believed Alcides was gone, but he came back with a more powerful body. Ares' troops attacked Alcides, but he effortlessly defeated them with this fresh power. Alcides could fight at the same level as Ares. Zeus eventually ended the fight and turned Alcides into a god, but only if he guided people toward doing what is right. Alcides accepts Zeus's offer because he sees no other way to live, and he is reborn as the god Hercules. Jack and Hercules are in an intense battle. Jack is getting more fierce, flinging his fold-out knife and blades at Hercules. Hercules breaks the fold-out knife and swings his club at Jack, making him leap using piano wires. Huh? What's going on? Hold on, he's balancing on wires. I summon the wind caller. Jack talks about maybe getting rain in London and asks for an umbrella, but Hercules had already wrecked it. Jack uses the wires to fire knives at Hercules, causing them to bounce off the walls and strike him with growing speed. Hercules changes his club into a bird and uses the move from the sixth task, the Stymphalian bird, to send the knives back at Jack. Jack recognizes Hercules' incredibly strong will and says sorry for getting thrilled about ending a god. Using his unique eye, Jack sees and understands that Hercules genuinely possesses an unbreakable will and a lovely color. He talks about how much he looks forward to seeing what color Hercules will be when he passes before singing the song "London Bridge is Falling Down." In London during the 1800s, young Jack looks for food in a waste bin, only to get hit by the bin's owner. Living with his mom in a place for working women, he sees a man coming out of her room. Jack asks if she's safe, but his mother holds him close, telling him it's all okay. Even with a wound, his mother cares for it and spends her pay to get him healing supplies. Despite their difficulties, Jack finds joy in his mother's affection. Jack brings home a large piece of cheese, but his mother is sad that a man named Jack Smith is getting married. Jack tries to soothe Mary, but she screams at him and wishes he hadn't been born, saying he was only a link to the man she loved. Jack sees her color become red, grabs her throat, and squeezes until her color changes to purple. He stabs her, saying he loves this new shade she's become. During the Jack and Hercules fight, Jack talks about his belief that everyone's feelings are mixed up when they're alive. But facing death, when they're overcome with terror, it's a lovely view. Hercules disagrees, saying he won't have any fear at all when his end comes. Jack climbed the large tower clock to get away. He threw the clock's round face at Hercules, cutting off his arm. It turns out Jack's gloves are his special power-up, Hluck, able to make anything they touch a sacred item, turning all of London into his weapon. Brunhilde was aware Jack's gloves were his special item and planned for him to win against Hercules. She made Hluck, the 11th Valkyrie, join with Jack, making her his power-up weapon. The fight between Jack the Ripper and Hercules keeps humans nervous, with Jack appearing to be ahead. However, Hercules will not quit, and Jack praises how he manages his feelings. Even seeing the worst feelings people have, Hercules sees their faults but still loves humanity. He starts his last level, Cerberus. I call the underworld dog. Is that Cerberus? The fight gets more fierce, with Jack using rubble as sacred weapons, even a sewer cover, but Hercules finally beats him with a strong hit. However, Hercules needs to beat Jack fast before his own strength takes over. Jack admits Hercules was better than he expected, but tries to flee using a climbing hook. But Hercules leaps up and lands a hit that makes Jack drop and get pierced by a metal fence. Even with his wounds, Jack cuts himself and gets ready to meet Hercules again. He tells his opponent that the whole city is his weapon and then turns his cape into a sacred item to slice down the building behind him. The structure falls onto Hercules, but he appears from the debris looking very changed. Jack shares that Hercules made him understand what true love is like. He then fights Hercules hand to hand, using whatever he finds to block his foe's hits. Jack avoids Hercules' hits and tries to hit him with metal bars from a fence, but he only manages to lightly cut his opponent. Hercules answers with a strong hit that sends Jack to the floor, making the gods cheer while some humans show disappointment in Jack. Others were annoyed and thought about just fighting the gods personally. Surprisingly, Jack gets back on his feet and gets ready to fight on. During their fight, Jack the Ripper tries to hit Hercules but doesn't land the blow. Hercules lands a hit but ends up getting stabbed by Jack's blood, which turned into a sacred item. Instead of hitting back, Hercules hugs Jack and shares his love for people as he gives the task of saving humankind to Brunhilde. As he vanishes, Heimdall announced Jack won the 4th match, leaving everyone watching amazed. After his win, Jack asks Hluck how she feels, but Hluck answers with a question about how he feels after ending a deity. Jack doesn't know. Hluck says he's a sad person, unable to express feelings. She tells Jack to go to the medical area while she goes to wash up. Jack remembers Hercules swore to free him from his misery and hopes to see him again as robbers attack. Some see Jack as a scary creature, while others find beauty in something dirty. At the same time, Brunhilde confirms her job is to save people, but cries when she shows respect to the fighters who lost, like Hercules. While Ares grieves for Hercules' passing, Loki shares that Jack had a smart approach the whole time. Despite knowing this, Ares still praises Hercules for his resolve. Zeus shows anger that humans are tied with the gods and wins, and wrecks the observation spot, promising to stop humans from taking the lead. Later, the Norse deity Loki asks Buddha near the fountain if the Valkyries were always so powerful in the matches, and suggests a possibility about a force called Samadhi that helps them stand against deities. Buddha snaps his candy stick, and the 7 fortunate deities show up saying they are like Justice Patrol and are getting ready to attack Buddha. Loki halts them, but then goes over to their side. Buddha declares if they want to fight, they should hurry up and go. He lets out his spiritual energy, making the gods feel the pressure. Kentoki assists Buddha, saying he doesn't like picking on someone when it's more than one against them. Suddenly, Soji and Okita also step into the battle to help Buddha, even though they are outnumbered by the deities. During a standoff involving Buddha, Kentoki, Soji, and Okita versus Loki and the 7 fortunate deities, Ebisu fires at Buddha but misses. Loki attacks with linked blades, but Okita bats them away, and Soji gets close, but Zeus and Odin step between them. 2 gods say fighting without approval is silly. Odin stops the fight with an energy burst that ruins the gardens. Loki quits after sneezing, and the fortunate deities caution Buddha about those who aren't loyal as they exit. Soji, Okita, and Kentoki also choose to head back to their space. Kentoki says sorry to Buddha. Zeus suggests Buddha keep out of problems. Buddha laughs and says he only listens to himself. Gaul and Brunhilde are selecting the next fighter. They visit the room, made to look like Japan, and discover the fighter sleeping surrounded by women without clothes. Gaul wonders who he is, and Brunhilde shows her the huge sumo wrestler hand marks on the walls. Brunhilde wakes Raiden up and lets him know it's his turn for the match. Gaul understands Raiden is history's best sumo wrestler. Brunhilde then calls for Thrud, the 3rd Valkyrie. Thrud breaks through the door to the room because she's too large to fit through normally. She wonders if Raiden is bummed that she's such a giant woman. However, Raiden is thrilled and hugs her, saying large women are what he likes. Thrud tells him to stop messing around, but Raiden says he's completely serious. Seeing his earnest expression, Thrud softens and turns pink. Before the match, Heimdall gets started introducing the god's fighter and reveals it's the deity of destruction. Every special move was forbidden for him because he's unbelievably powerful. At the East Gate, fighting for humans in match 5, from Japan, Tamim and Raiden. Alright, up next, entering from the West, representing the deities, facing the unmatched grappler. He makes entire worlds and ruins them for kicks only to remake and destroy them again. There's no doubt. Fighting for the gods in match 5, from India, at last, it's my chance. It's the ultimate fight between a deity and a person. Ragnarok match 5, the destroyer himself, Shiva. Shiva's wife and boys cheer loudly for him as Raiden does a traditional sumo ritual before the fight. Raiden dropkicks Shiva right in the face, but Shiva remains standing and the match goes on. Raiden lands a punch. "Hey buddy, lots for you to learn." But Shiva stops it. However, Raiden instantly follows up with a hook punch and strikes Shiva, making him drop to his knees. He takes Shiva's head, aiming to end the fight, and knees him in the face. However, Shiva stops the hit and punches him in the chest, sending him soaring. Shiva said he wanted to keep having fun in this match while Raiden got into a more focused fighting stance. In Japan's Konohana province, January 1617, a baby called Taro Kichiseki arrived, but his muscles were uncontrollably strong and his bones snapped when he first tried to walk. He kept going and eventually grew a new group of muscles known as the 100 Seals to counter the original ones. Raiden frees the 100 Seals, causing his muscles to become uncontrollable. To get them in line. Huh? For real? After all that, you're gonna fall apart? How rude. I'm relying on you. He managed to squeeze them until they obeyed, for that is Toman Raiden, the bringer. We're about to see Raiden, the person with the mightiest muscles in all of history. Raiden calls through and activates his incredibly muscular outer sumo belt, his power-up item. Brunhilde explains Raiden's muscles grow strangely quickly, and he can hardly handle them without the 100 Seals. Raiden cautions Shiva about the risk and hits him with a Kiku Ichimonji move. Shiva survives Raiden's hit and answers with a rapid series of powerful, cannonball-like strikes. Raiden drops to his knees but then grabs and breaks Shiva's arm. Shiva strikes back, but Raiden avoids it and lands many punches. But Shiva's hits become harder. "You have technique, but I do too. Bring it on. They seem like cannonballs. Keep it coming." And they start hitting heads back and forth. Shiva recalls his days with Rudra as the match gets more heated. Long ago, the deities in India were a confused group of thousands competing for authority, with no single ruler. Two fairly unknown deities, Rudra and Shiva, resided on Mount Kailash. Rudra practices by hitting a large rock while Shiva dances with creatures. When two other deities requested their help to beat the Asura butcher brothers in a village nearby, Shiva didn't care, but Rudra talked him into joining. After beating the bad guys, Shiva and Rudra chatted about what they hope for in life. Shiva says sorry for being the second amazing god to Shambhala, while Rudra shares his wish to be the top god in India and see things no one else has. Shiva wasn't keen on going with Rudra at first, but finally chooses to because everything with Rudra is fun, and Rudra never changes his plans. Shiva and Rudra overcame 115 deities to reach the peak of the Indian gods. Rudra challenges Shiva to a battle to see who is the more powerful. Even though Shiva wasn't eager, he says okay, knowing Rudra would never give up. The two fought intensely for days, with Rudra using his full might to try and win against Shiva. But ultimately, Shiva came out the winner. Despite his defeat, Rudra is happy with the match and glad he measured his strength against his buddy. The two keep going on their path, connected by their incredibly strong link as deities and friends. Raiden shares that he's liking the fight despite being hurt and thanks Shiva for showing him a new level of fighting. Shiva and Raiden's battle keeps going, with Shiva's strong dance moves being too much for Raiden's sumo skills. Even with the obvious lead, Raiden uses his large arms like a shield and surprises everyone with how tough he remains. At the same time, Shiva's body suddenly starts burning up from his really intense dancing. In a last-ditch effort, Shiva lands a strong kick on Raiden, but instead of collapsing, Raiden smiles while fighting. "How's it look? My dancing's quite hot, right?" Raiden's smile grabs Tanakaze's notice, and he feels Raiden's joy and fights with all his strength. When Tarokichi was just 5, he saw some kids doing sumo practice, and after beating a few, Torikichi asked Tarokichi to fight him. Even though Tarokichi had a delicate body, he surprised Torikichi by sending him flying out of the fighting circle. His incredible power earned him the nickname Ogre from the other children. Tarokichi asks his mother why the gods gave him this kind of body. His mother reminds him she prayed for him to be strong and told him to use it to aid others. Tarokichi became known for being kind and always ready to assist by lifting heavy things. When a natural problem hits his hometown, Tarokichi goes away to become a sumo wrestler and make money to send back. Although he didn't want to hurt others, he lost a match to Takakaze and found the sport really interesting. Tarokichi begins training without stopping and finally learns how to use his power without hurting anyone. Tarokichi became Raiden Tamimin and ruled sumo with his might, but he quickly saw he was picking on weaker folks and stopped using his strongest moves. Even so, he won most of his matches, 254 out of 285, and was called Raiden the Unmatched. In the end, Raiden quit sumo without ever using his complete power. Raiden chooses to fight with all his might against Shiva. Raiden unleashes a potent open-hand strike on Shiva, blasting away 2 of his arms and sending him soaring. Shiva stands with just 1 arm remaining, and Raiden's attack was faster than sound. However, the impact of the strike makes Raiden's body tear apart, but Thrud keeps him together. Raiden tells Thrud to shift his muscles even more, putting his sumo career and life on the line. Shiva turns on Tandava Karma and becomes red as he heats up. Prepare yourself. Honestly, you're a massive pain, aren't you? Alright, let's do it. Those hits will turn his body to charcoal. Oh no, are you saying Raiden can't possibly win? Brunhilde compares Shiva and Raiden, noting they both grow stronger by holding on to the hopes and goals of others. Raiden and Shiva trade strikes in a match that isn't going well for Raiden, because each time he blocks Shiva's hit, it burns his muscles. Shiva is mightier than before, but if he keeps pushing himself to burn, he will burn away. Raiden manages to shove Shiva back. As the Indian deities see Shiva starting to break apart, Rudra screams at Shiva not to surrender. However, Raiden felt the end was close and unleashed one last strike called Yatagarasu. Shiva stops the strike with Tandava Loka, breaking Raiden's arm. Even though he lost, Raiden said he was thankful for the chance to fight with his full power and asked for Thrud, his power-up, to be released. Thrud refuses to separate from him. Raiden says to her he couldn't have wished for a better lady. Raiden accepts losing with no regrets and says goodbye to those he loves before Shiva ends him by cutting off his head. Shiva calls him a great man and thanks him for the most amazing fight he's ever had. Even though Shiva won, Ares and Hermes debate about how the battle might have turned out differently. The sumo fighters pay their respects to Raiden by stamping their feet. Following the intense battle, Shiva meets Rudra and the Indian deities, and Zeus arrives too to recognize human power. At the same time, Brunhilde feels sad about losing Raiden and adds a memorial for him, revealing her deeper feelings. Zeus looks for Buddha and asks him to fight in the 6th round, and even though he's not eager, Buddha agrees and even gives him a hug. Gaul overhears the fortunate deities chatting and gets spotted by Bishamantan and the rest, but Jack the Ripper shows up and gets their attention by offering tea. As the 6th match gets closer, Heimdall announces Buddha as the deity fighting. But Buddha shocks everyone by placing himself on the opposite side, stating he will fight for humans and threatening to end any deity who stands against him. The gods are furious at his statement, getting ready for a tense and critical battle. After Buddha made his shocking declaration, the gods immediately saw him as a traitor. The stadium was so loud and chaotic that Buddha got annoyed and actually broke Heimdall's fancy trumpet. Then he announced that if the deities weren't going to rescue humanity, he would. He also made it crystal clear that if any god tried to block his path, he would absolutely kill that deity. Odin couldn't contain his rage either, and he let out a seriously intimidating presence. Gaul, meanwhile, asked Brunhilde why on earth Buddha would choose to fight on their side. Just a little while before the 6th fight was about to start, when Brunhilde had just finished mourning, she and Buddha had a little chat. Buddha informed her that Zeus had tapped him for the 6th match, but he made it plain that he wanted to fight for the human side. Since Brunhilde wasn't surprised at all by what he said, Buddha instantly realized that this all fit into whatever grand scheme she had cooked up, so Brunhilde simply replied that she knew no one else in Valhalla disliked the gods as much as he did. He just chuckled at her words and seemed to enjoy her response. Heimdall tried to explain Ragnarok's official rulebook to Buddha, pointing out that he couldn't just switch teams, but Zeus, as it turned out, didn't give a hoot if this was what Buddha wanted. He descended into the arena and walked towards Buddha and Heimdall. Even knowing this completely shattered the Ragnarok rules, Zeus seemed even more excited for this turn of events, like he was hoping to get another fight in himself. Odin suddenly spoke up and asked Buddha if he was really prepared to stand against the gods again. Buddha reminded them that it didn't matter if they were friends or enemies, good or evil, a deity or a human. The only thing that mattered was himself. Because of this bold statement, the audience, along with Loki, grew even angrier at him. When Buddha asked which god would dare to face him, Zeus had already picked someone. Suddenly, they heard a voice from above and saw spotlights coming from an airship. They saw the 7 happy deities, and as they landed, Zeus told their leader, Bishamantan, to deal with Buddha. Heimdall immediately announced that Bishamantan would be fighting for the gods, and that he wanted the remaining deities to clear the fighting area. This was the moment when Bishamantan revealed that from the very beginning, the 7 of them were actually just a single being. Then he shattered his armor and he allowed the other 6 happy deities to merge back into his body. The story goes that besides the 7 happy deities, there was one more with them, which is how the tale of the 8 fortunate deities began. But the truth was, it was just one deity all along, and his name was Zerofuku. Ares had never even imagined a deity like him existed, and Hermes had never seen him before, although he'd heard whispers of Zerofuku. When Heimdall got the updated list of fighters for the 6th round from the officials, he announced the 2 names again. That was when Gaul figured out that Zerofuku was the Zero that Ebisu had mentioned. So Brunhilde told her that ages and ages ago, people could still communicate with other deities. This happened because the other deities enjoyed living in the human realm, and Zerofuku was one of them. One day, he visited a village and was horrified by the miserable state of the people living there. Using his divine ability, he absorbed all the misery from a child, making the kid feel better instantly. He did this every day to free people from their suffering, but all that misery gradually collected inside his own body. After some years, it began to have a serious effect on his body. One day he went back to the village he'd helped earlier to see how everyone was doing, but upon arriving, he was completely let down by what he saw, and that's when he understood the true nature of humans.